What's up, my friends? Welcome to the To Be Alive podcast. This is Saints in Pairs, episode 4. Andres, our special guest. How are we doing today, my friend?
Good. I'm leaving in like 4 hours to Miami. Gonna see my family for a week. My friend just had a baby. He's getting it baptized, so I'll see him tomorrow for that. It's gonna be good to reset.
Beautiful. And we just had a bunch of technical issues trying to get this podcast going. Why don't we do a quick 1 minute grounding before we dive in? How does that sound?
Perfect.
All right. So give me one moment here. Okay. To go ahead and close your eyes. And again, the listeners, I encourage you all to follow along if you're so able to. So we're going to go ahead and close your eyes and just settle into your body. You can scan down your body if that feels good and just notice what's happening. And I'll let you know when to come back. All right, let's come on back. I needed that.
It's crazy how within the first 5 seconds I already felt present. Like my body was just radiating with chills.
Amazing.
It's almost like I don't know. There's something about your presence, maybe this space, but also having somebody else externally say like, okay, now we're gonna be present. Like, okay, now I'm allowed to be present, and then it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could have been by myself and you weren't here, and I would have said every time I try to meditate by myself, sometimes I don't actually allow myself. It's like not allowed.
Yeah. It's a permission slip. The funniest thing is when I say it out loud like that, it also allows me to drop in because I have the exact same kind of battle that I fight with myself, which is drop into presence, drop into presence. But unless like I'm really in the zone, it doesn't typically happen. So I'm with you, my friend.
Dude, it's so weird, but I'm grateful that the space allows it.
Amazing. So I want to go back to what you were saying. You're heading back to Miami um, later today, and I felt a lot of excitement. And something else too. You want to just speak on that?
You know, I've had a weird relationship with Miami my whole life. I especially I'm going to talk about
And
after I
that's your hometown, right?
born and raised, born and raised,
Yeah.
yeah. And after I lived away and worked away from home, I lived at home for a year because I was trying to start a business and I was like, all right, I don't want any overhead costs. My parents were nice enough to give me a year, but it was very like depressing for many reasons. And this is like every time I've gone back since, it feels less depressing. And nothing's actually changing in Miami, but I'm changing. So the way I see it, the way I feel as a whole. And so I used to get scared or like a little like hesitant to go back because I'm like, who am I even going to see? I don't really want to talk to anyone. It's just going to bring me back to the past. And even my parents, I love them, but I'm kind of like, after a day or two, I'm like, I already said everything there is to say. There's nothing left to do. Like, I don't have as much control. But I don't know. I feel lighter. my dad and I have more to talk about with insurance stuff now since I've been getting into it. I have some friends that I reached out to that I haven't seen in like a decade. One of them, like, I was like, "Hey, dude, any chance you're going to any networking events?" Or, and he's like, "Bro, I'm playing soccer on Tuesday. Come." It's like I got invited to this exclusive high-end soccer group. They're all really competitive, and I haven't played with them. I played with them in middle school, and I just thought about messaging him. And now I'm like, I went from being like, I don't know what I'm gonna do to Miami to like, I literally need to start canceling plans because I have too many things that I have. There's too many things. I'm like, yo. So it's gonna be a blitz. I need to like slow down and soak in time with my family and go boating. But nothing has changed. Those people I didn't want to talk to them before, and suddenly I'm like, I don't really want to talk to you maybe, but I want to be around and play sports and go to this networking event. There are parts of me. I'm excited for that.
What do you think that is? What do you think it was that like shifts you from being like, not really feeling that vibe to, okay, why not? And to the point where you're like overloading your calendar.
Dude, honestly, I'm just more content. Like I just feel less needy. And back then I was like, I was in a place where I was unhealed. And so those interactions, I just couldn't be superficial. I always felt heavy. And so I wanted to just process with people. I was almost like, I almost desired to trauma dump with strangers, and which I didn't ever do either way. So it was just like I was just trying to internalize it. And now I'm like, I don't need anything from anyone. I don't want anything from everyone. I just want to go play sports and have fun. But I have my people for that. But then my cup is being filled now by like things like you and my other friends. So it's like I get my depth taken care of.
Man, I love that you said that. Like, I'm going back home next month actually for a week, and I have a very similar like thought process of, well, crap, like going home where you grew up, and I spent 30 plus years of my life. I've only been in Austin for 3 months, right? And I think about the same thing, like, who do I want to tell that I'm coming? Who do I want to not tell that I'm coming? Is it going to be wrong if I don't, like hit everybody up? Am I a bad friend? But then I'm like, it's okay to let go and I just trust that like what feels alive will come up, and if that means I want to hit someone up, I will. And yeah, it's like it's just this trust and like, hey, I want to honor what I'm feeling and trust that that's going to lead to like me being actually present if I say yes to hanging out with people. But my whole thing has been I have a lot of guilt. I feel sometimes if I don't hit everyone up, because they're like, dude, you were in town for a week, you didn't hit me up, man, what's up? And I'm just like, well, I only have 7 days, and I honestly these days I need time for myself. So anyway, there's this whole story running in my head that like you kind of triggered when you were sharing.
It's funny because I think this is gonna be the first time you've gone back home since you've been here. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like you're a different person already. So you're gonna come back and it's gonna be like this. You're colliding with everyone wanting to talk to you as if you're the same person, and you're like, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it'll be fun.
That'll be a hell of a pod afterwards.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to that.
I'm staying with you, man. I can't wait for you to. When do you come back? Next Thursday, you said?
Yeah, I'll be here on Friday for the pod.
Perfect. Perfect. Next episode, we're gonna catch up.
Dude. Side note: what inspired the text for we should start a men's group?
I have been feeling like I want to step into a role more explicitly to create like spaces for people to be able to open up in whatever way feels right. And I know you resonate with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we should just, you and me, let's open up a men's circle. Like here in Austin. We'll talk about the when and the where and the what and the how and all that stuff. But how do you feel about it? Like, you've done this before, I believe. You've done men's circles before. I already know your presence is like extremely grounding for so many people. They feel it around you. So I feel like the two of us, like together in a room to help others, like facilitate others to just feel safe to say whatever's on their mind and their hearts, more importantly, would be so special. So I would love to explore that with you if you're. It sounds like you're open to it, but I'll ask.
Bro, yeah, I saw the text and I was beaming. I was like, bro, I love when you come with these ideas. Like, you're like, yo, I feel inspired to do a pod together. And I'm like, I'm so blessed that I have a friend that just like wants to do the things that my heart's always desired. I did a men's circle back a couple months ago. It didn't work out. And it was probably like fit of people and leading and everything. And yeah, when you say it, it resonates. I'm like, bro, this is so obvious.
Okay, we'll talk about it when you come back, and
Perfect.
let's get that in motion. I'd love to do it. Um, so I wanted to ask you,
Mm.
before we started this pod, you mentioned there's a lot you want to catch up on, and you were like, I'm gonna call you before the pod, and you're like, actually, let me just wait till the pod, and we can talk about it there. Do you feel comfortable going into that now?
Yes. There's like three different directions I can go. I'm just going to pick one. So this week was weird for me, and I already had told you a little bit about it for the listeners. I feel like there's always okay, there's just these stories, but um, there was a girl, and Akash has met her and seen our dynamic together. She's really cute. We have a lot of fun together, but we had this like, and I knew this was coming. We had this conversation about values. Here's another scenario. I had another I had spoken about it on the previous pod, but we had a conversation about values, and because it was leading in a direction that we both liked hanging out with each other a lot. Ultimately, same thing. She like believes in the rigidity of church group. I don't, but I got exposed to something that was hard for me, which was that she had so much conviction and she reminded me so much of myself when I used to be such a believer, like a Catholic believer, and I was bought in really heavily. And honestly, it kind of made me feel like sad and empty to an extent because I miss that. And I feel like I always feel like in these moments, like I'm reminded that maybe a part of me is a little bit missing. I have a little bit of a void in my life that nothing really fills. Having friendships like this are probably the thing that make me like most whole. It like fills my heart just up to the brim. Um, but everything else feels pretty like void.
Mm.
And yeah, and that season where I was so convicted, I mean, I had great friends, that was a byproduct, but like my heart was just full like all the time. It's like it was just and it was weird. It was like this ecstasy. And so I was reminded of that, so I felt a lot of grief and I didn't know how to process it initially, and it was just, I called you and we spoke about it on like Tuesday, but as the week went on, different layers started to unfold. And this morning I walked to my neighbor's place. This is the most interesting part. My neighbor is raised Christian from a missionary family in Costa Rica. He's an American white boy, but lived over there. And then he just became Catholic a couple months ago. But we are so similar. He's brilliant. He went to Princeton. He was an English major. He's just so intellectual. He reads all the books, you know, The Way, Buddha, whatever, Christianity. He was reading Carl Jung this morning. And I walk up, knock on his door. He loves the idea of like no technology living, just knock on my door when you want to connect. Is like I love it. And I was feeling still off this morning and yesterday night. Just this like yeah. So we sit down, and I think last night I had asked ChatGPT about something, and this is me getting into it because this is really weird to say out loud for people that are not Christian, but this was my lived experience. I was struggling to process some experiences that I've had when I was very, Christian. One of them was and these came up in that conversation with that girl, which is why it surfaced. I remember there's this thing called the Eucharist in the church, and it's the bread, and we believe believe it's the essence and presence of Jesus Christ. And when I was so in the faith, I believed it so much that I would get visions. Like I'm walking up the aisle towards to receive the Eucharist, and I would see in this vision, I close my eyes and I can feel like Mary, like Jesus' mom, in the pew right in the front. Sometimes she's holding my hand and walking me forward. Sometimes she's just in the pew. She's in this beautiful white and blue veil. and there's this warmth to her. And when she gets close to me, it's almost like she puts her cloak over me. And we get to the front, and she's like helping me receive her son. And it's just like this warm embrace. And I take the Eucharist. I'm like filled with chills. I'm overwhelmed. And I'm in like this ecstasy and love. And I had a bunch of these experiences around different things. Um, but yesterday I was like asking ChatGPT. I was like, I don't know how to parse this because it felt so real. Like, and I had a bunch of random types of stuff like this, and like I would read about stories in the saints, and the saints would have these stories. So I used to be. This is weird for me to say so casually because I feel far removed from it that it's like it's okay for me to say. But if I would have said this when I was really Catholic, this would be pretentious of me. This is like, you're so holy. How is this stuff happening to you? I can't believe you're talking about it. Like, it would be prideful of me to say this out loud. Because this is what stuff that would happen to saints. This is what people that are enlightened. It's like a grand thing, you know? But for me, I'm just seeing it as like grief. Like I don't even know what to make of it. Um, and so ChatGPT had this beautiful answer for me, which, good thing for the AI. It was like, you don't need to. I was like, how do I parse this? What was real? Was this just my subconscious? Is this my archetypes? Is this what? How do I make sense spiritually of this story and these things? And then I asked it like, why? What is the largest reason why people leave church? And it gave me the reasons, and I resonated with all of them. And it said, especially Catholic Church. And what's the largest? Where do most of these people go? And it had 4 answers: contemplative Christianity, which was really interesting. I'll get there. Um, Buddhism, the way, this non-dualist route. Please, I gotta remember these other 2. The Carl Jung looking at the archetypes and the psychoanalysis of life, and there was one more I'm forgetting. But the contemplative Catholicism is like, for example, it's the most ironic thing is because there's a saint that I resonate with the most, and she just followed the rules on the outside, but her whole love of God and experience was in her interior life. She was in a convent, and she just said, "Yeah, I'll follow the rules, but for me, this is irrelevant. All I really care about is when I close my eyes and God and I dance together." That was her like world. Um, and she ends up having similar personality to me from what I've studied. But I go over to my friend's place this morning. I'm unprocessed. I'm unsettled, and we had this. He had the same experiences, and we came to this point where we were able to name why, like, visible examples of why we can't go back to church for some reason, and it gave me so much peace. Because there was someone else that understood. I just needed one person to like feel human again, because I feel like really alienated. Like yeah. And the moment like him and I finished talking, I felt so much like groundedness. And then like my work was so efficient the last couple hours and whatever. And he didn't give me answers. He didn't clarify like reality. He didn't give me like the way, but he was just someone listening to me that understood. And I was gonna call you, and then I ended up walking over and having that situation with him, and I just became whole again. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about my story, and I think I even found a podcast yesterday. It's the last thing I'll say on this, about this guy who had a similar journey. I asked ChatGPT what it thinks, and it literally found this podcast and sent it to me. And this guy has 100 listens or something. And this, I mean, he's got like a following of 20,000 on Twitter. But he's like, he used to be super Christian, singer, all this stuff. He started having the feelings I had. He spoke about it honestly. Lost his following. People stopped letting him come to these church stuff to sing. He started this pod, and he goes to every church he could think of, and he's like, I can't find people that live in this healthy middle. And this is the thing I wanted to say on the pod. Okay, I didn't know where this was going initially, but this is what I wanted to say, because I want to know if you feel this, and I think the audience, like the people that get this, you are my home. Like, you understand something about the world that I think all of us want, but no one knows how to get to. And the world is like on this spectrum of only your heart and no rationale, logic, philosophy, moral code, it's destructive. And if you follow only the law, this is what you should do, this, and that, you also it's destructive. But there exists this place right in the middle that this is what I look for when I go to a church. This is what I look for when I'm looking for good friends. This is what I look for in myself when I'm struggling within like some tension. And it's this little narrow passage between these where you get to be whole. I get to be a human that can have rationale and thinking and also feel all the things and feel something divinely inspired that breaks the rules of what I should do, that maybe I want to sleep with this, maybe in this relationship with this girl that's beautiful, we're having this connection, that I would break the rule, you shouldn't do this, and you break it and you're still whole. And there's this like continual coming to oneself, knowing oneself more fully, having grace for oneself and what they desire, but not being destructive and all emotional, not being destructive and all just like legalistic. And that's what I'm looking for when I go to church, when I go to meet people, and maybe the answer is only within, and I think that's the beautiful Buddhist way. I think there's many ways to get here, but this space has an energy, and my soul craves to live and dance and build a world in here.
My heart right now is aflame.
I'm so glad that resonated, because I was like, I don't know if he thinks I'm just rambling right now.
Bro, I love you so much.
Bro, I love you. I'm so happy that resonated.
Thank you for sharing all that. It sounds like your friend almost gave you permission to believe in the experiences that you had. Like this means something. Like it's so easy to write it off as, oh, I just had a crazy experience, because no one else is going to tell me or validate that because they didn't experience it. Right. And we live in a world that is so logical and so rules bound that like if we experience something that's outside of those rules, it's deemed as crazy. So like for you to have met someone else who's gone through that, it just gives you permission to believe like, hey, I'm not crazy. Like I had this experience and now I'm trying to understand what it means. And that's beautiful, man. That's fucking beautiful.
Kevy's my neighbor. I met him walking outside my complex like a year ago. I don't like what?
Yeah. My perspective, none of these things are coincidences.
Yeah, synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many threads we can pull with this. I want to ask you, like, what about what you just shared do you want to talk about?
I'm so passionate about this middle way. Like, it's one of the best representations I've been able to like think of or hear about what I'm talking about, but it's so abstract. Like, how do I, like, if I walk into a church, and this is what I did missionary work for a year, and I was trying to teach people this, and I'm like, they're looking at me like I'm speaking Chinese, and I'm like, how do you get people to see, to put on the lens in which where they get what this middle way feels like, looks like, it both emotionally and physically when I touch, you know what I mean? It's a space. It's like when you and I have a conversation, and maybe you don't want to share something, or there's whatever, and I hold the space where I'm like, dude, like, I love you, you can say anything, and you believe it enough to actually share it. That's invisible. How do you explain that to someone? You have to experience it. But yeah, I'm like, basically this is where I think God lives, in terms of like, to be whole, to integrate all parts of you, and to be the true version of yourself. You have to live in this for long enough, because it gives you permission for all of you to come out.
Yeah. What you're talking about is like, it's like radical acceptance of everything that we experience. So typically we are on either sides, right, of the on either pole, and like there's a wrong and a right. It's very binary, and you're saying there's a place right in the middle, in between, that allows both to exist together. And every
Mm,
spiritual tradition has some version of this, right? Like yin and yang is the same idea. You mentioned non-dualism. Like it's non-dualism is this idea that we are not separate. Like what seems separate, like you and I, for example, on this podcast, we're not actually separate. We are of the same cloth. We're all cut. Everything's cut from the same cloth, which is source for God. So this podcast is getting out there. You know, I don't think we've entered this territory yet, but it's a this is not something I'm saying to convince anyone of anything, but I've come to understand that there is an illusion of separation which creates those two sides that we
mm,
feel in our life as, ooh, something feels off, something feels wrong, like what, I'm doing all the right things that I'm supposed to do, but why don't I feel good inside? That I think is, for me, what triggered this whole journey, and in a way that I feel maybe it also applies to you, because we were doing everything we're told to do. Maybe for you it was from the church's perspective. For me, it was from like my cultural perspective. And at somewhere along the line, we realized like, wait, I don't actually feel alive doing all these things that I'm supposed to be doing, right? And to even notice that takes so much awareness, and then to challenge that takes so much courage, especially for you, who's someone who's like grew up in the church. Like that is, it's so taboo, to
mm.
speak about these things out loud. So yeah, man, I feel like the path to the middle way, um, it's personal, and everyone has their own understanding of it, but ultimately it comes down to like, how do I live my life in a way that feels whole, even if I'm in pain, even if I'm sad
Mm.
or angry or happy. Like all these things are just flavors of this ice cream that is life. And not, I mean, maybe not the greatest metaphor, but these are all parts of the same whole,
Mm.
basically. Um,
But the goal is to have an environment that when you have all those parts of you that come out, they're all loved and accepted and welcomed and not shunned away.
yes,
That's the thing. Like our our groups, our societies, our friends, what's not cool is shuns away. It just shuns away that part of me. I have to, and it creates the performative. It creates the mask. It creates the dissonance within myself. I'm not good enough. It's like, no.
right. And in those experiences that you were describing earlier, like the visions that you have, how do you feel
About them or when I was having them.
when you were having them?
I would bawl. Like I felt so close to God. Like it was as if him and I were like hugging. And it was his representation of showing me that. I was so close to him that I was just like seeing beyond the veil of like reality. And so I was just seeing him. Like it was him. Like it's the same pew in the church, and yet I see the spiritual of what's happening. I'm trying to remember another time I was really struggling, and I started to get it out of nowhere. I'm closing my eyes praying, and it's almost like something overtook my glance, and it just plays as if it's a movie scene, and it's just like vision. It's called the scourging. It's like a boy. It's a when Jesus got like whipped to the point where you couldn't even recognize him, and they like pulled all his flesh out with all this like stuff. And it was me, and I was the one in the vision. And then I even had this. That's another story for another time. But it's like, and I didn't know what to explain. And I finished, and that vision was beautiful. I'm being, all I could see myself is in third person from behind, and there's someone in front of me, and then I go into first person. I'm able to look through my two eyes, and it's Jesus, and he's on the other side getting scourged with me. And all of a sudden, I go from feeling the pain at 100 because I'm like kind of in third person, kind of in first person, to like it goes to zero, and it's like time freezes because I'm looking into the eyes of Jesus. He's holding my hands. We're on like I'm kneeling and I'm on a wooden post and he's here and his hands are on my hands and the pain goes away because we're in it together and he's there with me. And all of a sudden it's like it doesn't even I don't feel the pain. I'm just mesmerized in the moment. And then 5, 10 seconds go by and then it's gone. And then I'm just I'm just bawling. And I remember being both consoled and both like, I don't know what this means.
Mm.
I'm um in some sense I had a spiritual director at the time and she ended up telling me like he sees you in all of the pain and he wants to remind you that like he's holding your hands and looking in your eyes at the same time while it's all happening and so that you know like it doesn't have to hurt as bad on your own. Um Beautiful.
Yeah. How do you make sense of that today? Like, I know this is part of what the question you brought up, but I want to throw it back at you. Like, at where you are right now, how do you make sense of it?
All that I know is that there's something to the idea of love that I can't explain, and that feels like maybe it's a unifying factor for all this stuff that like maybe they're just manifestations of love. Like I felt loved and consoled when I was seeing that. Um, I had read about some of these things and gotten these visuals from both the movie, like it was my subconscious, all this other stuff manifesting. But at the end of the day, it was these images of love, and I think when you're in love, like this is even relatable for people in relationships. When you're in love, like everything around you changes. Everything, the way, nothing is different. And yet you see the world completely differently. And sure, it could be a high and a drug to some extent, but there's also like this vigor for life. And at the time, I was in love with God and I was in love with the church and I was in love with what was happening. And that was the lens I saw through, and it was manifesting itself. And I'm actually like, I remember telling you this week, I'm like, I miss being in love with God. I do. It made it so much easier to love God when I didn't have any dissonance with the church because it was almost like it gave me the checkers board or the chess board. And then I got to play and I got good at playing and I got so good at playing that I got really good that it's like I could really lean into being me in this little box that I experienced all this love. And now that I'm like, I don't think this is the chessboard, this is the checkers board, but I just miss being in love. That's the void. I have the void. I don't know where to place this love or how to be in relationship to it, but I'm like I'm looking for it. And I'm like trying to be more open again, to be like I can fall in love with God again and with life and with someone and in a different medium. And maybe it's just within me. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm seeking to find.
Mm. Can I ask a couple clarifying questions just for people who are listening?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you say God, what do you mean?
Traditionally, in the religious sense, it was someone outside of me. He was the creator. He set the world into motion, but then wanted to be like a father to it. Um, this is the Christian narrative. I don't know what I mean by God now. I've been dabbling with the non-dualist idea that, and even Akash and I had this really powerful conversation the other last week, and um, he was posing this other idea that what if God is all of us? We're all just everything is just an extension of Him, and maybe the narrative is he the reason we're manifestations is so that He can experience more of Himself, of life as a whole. It's both a gift to us and a gift to Himself. And when you start to see that, you can, and if you believe that more and more, it's really trippy because even just when I hold the thought for like a minute and I look at this book on my shelf and the board, if I just think about that for a second, I almost get absorbed into all of it. Like I almost like I just blur. I know you know what I mean. It's almost as if like everything around me starts to evaporate and I'm just like I'm fading into this one white. For some reason the word is always white. I don't know where
Mm-hmm.
this is coming from, but it's this one white being isness. It just encapsulates everything.
Dude, do you realize how tapped in you are?
No. I'm just speaking of what was on my heart, bro.
You know the it's. I'm gonna share something about this as it pertains to what my experiences recently. And I don't know the number exactly, but I've met. You're probably the fifth or sixth person I've met in the last 5 months who, and you're by far the one who is the most embodied of all of them. But I've met other individuals that have also had these esoteric experiences of that white light, that indescribable, expansive, vast feeling of love that you may have had in those visions, in those experiences. Like I wanted to talk about two friends in particular. One person, without naming names, devout Christian much of his life, had a very like mystical experience when he was, I don't remember, in his 20s, and he was very deep in suffering at the time. He had, his life situation was not, unfortunately, he was going through a lot. And at one of his low points, he felt the presence, the warmth, the radiance, the light that you're describing. He felt himself getting like almost pulled out of his body, which is kind of crazy to think about. And he didn't think much of it though. Like I asked him, like how do you interpret all this? And his response was, I have no idea. And, I have no idea. And this is 30 years ago at the time for him. He's a little bit older than me. So that was for me interesting because I was like, I myself have not experienced this yet, but I'm starting to meet others who have. There's another friend recently who, through a meditation, was able to access that place. So he got so deep and so still during his meditation. There's techniques you can follow for this. That he felt, in his words, he became immersed in this vision of being in this cave of the most incredible, warm, white light. And he met his younger self there and felt the presence of God or source, whatever you want to call it, and gave that version of himself a hug and literally healed some part of himself. And this was 2 months ago, I think, 3 months ago. But fast forward to today, and he still doesn't know how to make sense of the experience either.
It happens like that. That's why, I mean, this week is little breakthroughs, but it's disorienting. I've been feeling, I had my first experience like this in 8th grade, 13 years old. I'm 26, 13 years, and I'm still making sense.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's I have nothing to say that's going to clarify this for you right now. I think this is so real, and I wonder if there's anyone out there listening to this that's also experienced something like this. If they've had a mystical experience, if they've had an esoteric experience that, because society says this stuff is crazy, they don't talk about it with anyone. None of these people I met, or both of these friends I'm talking about, have not shared, at least at the time last I spoke to them about it. They didn't share it with anyone else. It just happened to come up in our conversations because I kept asking. Actually, there's a third friend that I remember. Someone I met at the retreat I was at a few weeks ago. He also had this experience. And all these people have this, here's the interesting thing is everyone who has had this experience is kind. I have none of these, at least in I have N equals 6. I have a sample size of 6 or 7. But everyone I talk to who's had these experiences is kind. You can tell they live from the heart, and they may suffer, they may struggle, and they often do, but there's a faith in something here that supersedes everything out here. And I notice that in the way that they move through their life, in the way they talk, and the way that they are. So it's honestly one of my life's mysteries, and something I actually want to help shed light on, because I think you're not alone, dude. As you know, as you met someone today, literally, you're not alone. There's so many people that have experienced this that no one has the courage to talk about, because it's so out there.
Yeah.
It's so outside of science. It's so outside of like religion, even. Like in my opinion, and you know me and how I feel about religion, a lot of Western religion in particular, and I'm not going to go into all of it, and I don't want to offend anybody. I probably will offend someone, but
beautiful.
A lot of religion is, from my perspective, you know, it's taking what you experienced and putting it into a box and then giving it to you and telling you what it is that you experienced. So in a way, it takes the power of your own power and replaces it with their own narrative of what's happening, and then people believe that their whole life, and then they don't know any better, and so they live with this confusion of like, well, what was that? Okay, well, this person told me it's this, so this is what I think happened, but something in their heart, you know, when something is off between the story you're saying and the feeling that you have, you can tell something's off if you just look closely enough. It's that dissonance is there. And I think you felt that for a while, and now you're coming to a place in your journey where like you are genuinely asking the question of what was that? And what does it mean for me?
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. I can't believe. Remember the first time we ever had dinner and you were visiting Austin?
Yeah.
Our first conversation in person, I gave you the narrative of all the stories I had of these mystical experiences or whatever. And look, we're still talking about it. It's so abstract that it might take a whole lifetime to like make sense of it and to have a relationship with what it's exposing or whatever. But I am asking the question, and I just feel healthier finally acknowledging it. Like I don't know if it's the shadow or whatever, but that thing, I feel whole when I get to talk about it, because it's the reason I came into religion. It's the reason and it's crazy you say this thing about kindness. Don't get me wrong, like I'm sure I was a good kid, but I had like borderline anger management stuff. And then I had this experience, and I had a handful of them, and like it felt dumb to be angry. Like literally, it felt weird. It felt dumb. I was like I just immediately understood this idea. I didn't put it into words till like a decade later or whatever, but it's this idea of like hurt people hurt people. The only reason someone's mad at me is because they're hurt. So when they get mad, I just see the pain. I don't see a reason to react. It's like, and I only got, my mom's like, it's called being touched by grace is my mom's word of putting it. And she's like, people that don't get it have never been touched by grace. They don't know how to have this conversation because it's foreign language. But I do agree, when it touches you, like, you don't operate the same. And the amount of like, I don't know, empathy, compassion, or whatever it's called, just goes through the roof. I didn't come out the womb like this, but after those experiences, I don't know how to get angry for like just the sake of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it points to our true nature, to be honest. I think these experiences, this is my theory, is I think these experiences happen for us to remember our true nature. Like, I always say this. What is the one thing every single person alive wants? It's peace. They want to feel peaceful in the way they exist. And the fact that every single human alive can agree with that statement probably means that's our true nature. Like, we yearn for that for a reason, because that's who we are.
Facts.
And I think what you can't explain, I'm sure, like, as you know, you tried to, but you can't really explain the felt experience of what those mystical visions and whatnot that you've had are, right? You can't articulate it in words in a way that someone else is going to understand. It's just, It's
You
beyond,
gotta feel it.
right? It's beyond the human mind. Um, and like this is where things get really kind of esoteric. But like this is where I truly believe like what you experienced was like oneness. It's
Oneness.
there's no separation. There's just complete. I mean, it's a complete like it's taking this vision like this what they call like a duality, right? And then literally obliterating the illusion that keeps this separate until you feel both pole. Like the thing with duality is like there's two poles to it. And when you have an experience like that, you're not living in the middle literally. You're living in a place where both poles are whole
Mm.
together. Right? And so everything like what does wholeness mean? It means the good is as loved as the bad, right? What we desire, or the good feelings, the good emotions are just as important and valuable and allowed as the uncomfortable emotions. And so I think a lot of us live in a way that's like we resist the negative emotions. We resist feeling uncomfortable. We resist feeling upset, angry, unfulfilled. We resist it. Like we don't want it. So we push it away. We distract ourselves in our lives. But what's actually being asked for us, and what I think these visions, my theory, purpose is to remind us that like those are as much a part of us as joy, peace, happiness are. And we can't truly operate from a place of peace until we see that I got angry today and that anger wants to be felt. Doesn't mean you go punch somebody, but it means you feel the anger and you maybe shout into your pillow. Or if you're feeling like I've been feeling a lot of sadness this week, just a lot of sadness. Like that's just been over the last several weeks.
Mm.
That sadness wants to move not by me saying, "Oh, being sad is unmanly and I shouldn't be sad anymore," but rather I want to cry and it wants to be released. It wants to be like that's how sadness moves through us. So like those are all examples, I guess, of how like I think what it means to be at peace truly in the way that you felt in that moment, in those mystical moments, is to truly see that both sides have to come together and they each has to be honored just as much as the other. There's no one without the other.
It's crazy because in that analogy, like the thing I'm looking for is literally to give me an external representation of that oneness.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's all the same. Just to be able to experience the oneness more close, like in some external form.
Yeah. And I'm going
Again.
down a Buddhist path right now. I've studied, I don't know why. I started with Hinduism, which is my culture, obviously. Uh, Went into like kind of New Age stuff, if you're familiar with New Age spirituality, and studied a little bit of Kabbalah, which is like the mystical arm of Judaism, of the Jewish religion. And then now I'm suddenly into Buddhism, which is like it has the most practical techniques and teachings to help you have those experiences that you're talking about. So instead of them just happening what seems like randomly, right? You can drop into that place because you recognize the illusions of that separation that holds up this illusion. When you start noticing like the structure that keeps it up, like, oh, my thoughts, are they actually real? Like you start getting into that level, and over time it just starts to slowly one by one dissolve away, and like you can experience that pretty much. You can drop into a deep meditative state and experience that. So that's I'm drawn to that recently. So this conversation is so
Wow.
interesting to me because you're someone who's actually had the experience, whereas I wouldn't say like I have a goal to have that experience for sure, but part of it is realizing that even me wanting it is in a way pushing it away.
Illusion. Yeah.
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 So it's very subtle. There's a lot of like mind games and stuff that are playing here, but this dude, I can talk about this for hours. This is what I nerd out about all the time.
Dude, I love this stuff. It's so crazy because, like you said, I guess you've had a micro experience of this, which I do remember you sharing with me. And either that was enough, or your soul was written in a way where when I talk about this, you get it. Because, like you said, if you haven't experienced this, how are people going to understand? And yet, you get it.
I don't know. I can't explain it to you. I don't know. Yeah. So how do you feel like about where you are right now with this in your journey? Like, does that question make sense?
I'm learning how to, like I said, this week was, I had moments of sad, I had moments of grief, I had moments of confusion, overwhelm, stillness. I had 2 days, a Monday and Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday, where I just had this, I didn't really want to talk to anyone. And all I had was this repeating whisper in my heart of like, do you trust me? Do you trust me? And that is something I've heard before. It's like a line in Catholic, and there's a prayer, Divine Mercy, I think it's called. I don't remember the story behind it, but Jesus typically like would ask someone like, "Do you trust me?" And it's like an invitation for more love. But for some reason, it came up and it didn't feel like this religious implication or Jesus saying anything. It was just like in me, in Andres, came out this question of like, "Do you trust me?" And there's something there that it was making me very emotional every time it kept coming up. Um, and I think this is supposed to be the byproduct that I just learned how to. I talked about it with my neighbor this morning. I'm talking about it with you right now. I guess we're talking about it kind of with the world. Um, but I feel more whole, like I said, just talking about it. And so whatever it came up, and thankfully it's come up, and now it's becoming a part of my life, and it's integrating or whatever, and whatever is supposed to come from it, I think is good. The walls are coming down, and I trust that I can share it more. And I trust that in going on this path, like I'm gonna be more whole.
Mm.
So I think that's a lot of learning how to fall in love again, both in romantic relationships and maybe with self and maybe with God, are all letting down the walls and learning to trust and opening the doors.
Mm. Thanks for sharing that. Can I be honest with you?
Please.
I'm feeling like really drained right now.
Fair.
Um,
We've got pretty heady, not heady, but heavy with all this.
Heady, dude.
Heady.
Heady for sure. I notice when I get heady, I feel like
Oh, headache.
I feel like tired. I legit feel tired right now.
Mm,
Um, because there's a part of me that's like, I'm just gonna talk through this experience. This
please.
happens a lot. I get so excited about this topic, but I haven't experienced it yet, and I haven't figured out a way to like, or I'm part of me wants to be able to talk to people about this, like someone just off the street, you know?
Mm,
And I want to make this digestible for people because I know this is such a, out there woo woo kind of conversational thread. And I used to be someone who believed that too. And so I think I sometimes try to like explain, and try to make really, really crisp, logical flows and stuff like that. And like, forget about how that lands for a second. I just feel tired every time I do that. I'm
mm,
trying to articulate, like, what's the phrase? Like trying to make the ineffable effable. You know what I mean? Like we can't through words
pause.
explain that. And some part of me knows that. And so when I go against that knowing and I still try,
Mm.
I feel so tired. And at some point I'll learn the lesson.
It's kind of beautiful though, because it's your body's way of being like, not you, but me. It's almost, I used to see it like this. It's like not because of your will or because of your power will you encounter this, but because of mine, is how I used to hear God talk to me about this. Because I used to want these experiences all the time, more of them, more of them. And every time I wanted it, it runs away. And then I would always hear this gentle, I would get tired and kind of be like, all right, whatever. And and then if the experience would happen, I'm like, what the heck? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to teach you that it's not about you, it's me.
Mm,
Not because you're great, Andres, but because I'm great.
right. Yeah. It's you calling me out basically, but yes, it's spot on. It's spot on. It's spot on. It's not about, yeah, 100%. I feel like,
How?
go ahead.
No, I just feel like I want you to share more. Get back into the heart, whatever you're thinking and feeling.
About this.
Anything, man. Whatever's I we got a good check in on me, but even if it's just the last 5 minutes, my heart this entire time has been like, I wonder how he's been doing this week.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for asking. I'm still in my head right now. Holy shit. I just closed my eyes and I felt all this tension up here. Woo!
Hmm.
Just give me a like 10 seconds.
I wonder what your heart would say to your mind.
Ooh. Thank you. And you can rest. You know, there was a moment. So Andres and I are part of another men's circle, like an online one. We had our last call earlier this week, and there was a moment in that call where I was sharing about kind of how I've been dropping in more into my heart space, which I've shared on this pod recently as well. I think I spoke for about a minute 30, 2 minutes, maybe longer. I don't really know. I was very like with my words and with my heart as I was speaking. And I just remember when I finished talking, there was this felt sense of, I'm good. I don't need to share more. And I could just feel the like it landed. And it was really special because like I've always wondered, how do people talk in a way that lands with people? Like I'm so used to logic being the like good logic being how you get someone to understand and trust what you're saying. But I realized in that moment that if we just speak from the heart, A, the words just come to us, right? And then B, as a result, we're more present with ourselves. And then C, people feel that, and we just listen. It's like, whoa, this person is there. He's here right now. So yeah, this week has been a lot of just practicing staying in my heart, which is also why I think I felt so fatigued just now. Because I haven't been...
The first time I came back on.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
It's so tiring.
You really have been good about living in your heart. Every time I see you now, I feel it. And sometimes I'll feel like it wrestling, like your mind wants to come back online, and I'll notice you like in your head for a second, and then you'll drop back in. Your tone changes. It's so natural.
Yeah, it's getting there.
But it is, yeah. I'm just saying when you're there, it seems so natural. But I noticed that like it's a battle.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been just beautiful. Like it's such a different way to live. Like you have to understand my story of I'm Indian. I grew up in a culture that just cares so much about the mind and like being smart and being intelligent, and I had circumstances in my life where like I just became very self-conscious of my intelligence, or I thought I was very stupid for much of my life, like legit. So if you believe you're dumb, and then you grow up in a culture and a family that values being smart, you're
never enough. You're gonna size up all the time.
You're gonna size up all the time. How do I prove to everyone around me that I'm not dumb? And that's what becomes the measuring stick of success. And that's what I did for so many years. So in the last 3 weeks, coming down here, it's just quieter. Things make more sense down here. I'm more energized down here. I feel more connected to you when I'm down here. It's so beautiful. This is where I want to be. Like I love my brain. My mind is a beautiful machine, and but it works best when it's not the driver's seat but the passenger, and we're just
Yeah.
we're collaborating together. That's when it works best, but not when it's trying to drive a car, because it's like a teenager trying to drive a Ferrari, like it's just trying to show off to everybody, hey, I got a Ferrari.
I think that's why doing a men's circle would be a gift to people. It's literally a space where they get to just see the heart, let themselves drop into it, and then maybe if they come enough times, they can live from it.
Oh man, spot on. And it's a place where I can practice doing that in front of other
Same,
people.
same.
Yeah, there's something about when we just practice being ourselves, practicing our truth in front of others. Like, it's one thing to, stay at home all day and like do your thing and, say no to things you don't want to do, and that's all good and fine. But to be in other space, like in a space of other people that have a
Mm,
different energy, all different kinds of energies. Like, if you have 8 people in a room, everyone's gonna have their own frequency, right? To practice staying in your, in your truth, in your energy, in your heart space is not easy, right? For me, at least. I lose my sense of self a lot in those types of situations. So I'm looking forward to it, to help practice that, staying here around people, and also hopefully it benefits people who are there as well. Like, it should be a win-win for
facts,
everybody.
facts.
Yeah.
Hmm. You want to do closing thoughts?
Sure. This was definitely a very, like, energetically for me, this was a very different kind of episode, I think, than previous. Um, for the reasons I kind of already explained. Like, it felt a little bit more like I was trying to make it happen versus it just happening and it being a byproduct. It just being real. Like, that's what it felt like.
Hey, dude, it's beautiful that you can see it.
Yeah. And it's all good. Like, you can't expect to have every single episode be something. This is still a work of art in the way that it is. You know, um,
Facts.
for sure.
I still felt the work of art. Maybe you're a little harder on yourself right now, but I still think it was beautiful.
That's so
And I
classic,
think
dude.
I know, but I still think you're gonna look back on it and be like, actually, you know
That's
what?
that's fair.
It is well.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good reminder. Um, but these topics, this is stuff I'm gonna be. I want to be able to. I not even able. Like, I already know this is. I'm gonna be speaking on this more in
Mm,
the future, out loud, in the public sphere.
amazing.
So in a way, this is beautiful that I'm able to even share what I
Mm,
did today with you, and we have this space, and you have a literal direct experience that I theoretically understand, and me trying to connect the dots. Like, it's all perfect. It's all perfect. Like, even my body, what it's teaching me about the way I'm talking out loud about it, it's perfect. Like, I'm learning so much just listening to myself. So
mm.
yeah, whatever. Like, not feeling like super jazzed after an hour like we have in the past, but that doesn't mean this is any less important. Or
The funniest part is, I think you're gonna watch it and feel jazzed. I was
uh,
like, you're so much harder on yourself. You're so hard on
I mean,
yourself.
to be fair, dude, I'm just speaking what I'm
Yeah,
feeling
the
right
truth.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's completely allowed.
yeah. So in this moment, that's how I feel. But to your point, in the future, if
Amazing.
I ever watch Pits Back, which I will, I'm sure I'll have a different take. All right, your turn. I'm complete.
Bro, I love you so much. I love that you just, even in the moment, you're like, oh man, I don't know if this came from the right intention or energy or whatever. You just owned it before the episode even ended. Like, you didn't even allow for like that to linger as like, you're like, no, I own this, whatever. Which to my point, I know when you're in your heart, and I still feel like the heart was largely there. It was like holding the driver's seat, the steering wheel at the same time.
Beautiful.
The mind wanted to take over, and your heart was like you're just embodying so much of your heart that it's like, all right, man, you can't really get rid of me.
Yeah,
uh,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, dude. I also felt a little performative when you were like, all right, like tell me what's been going on, and I was like, shoot, I don't know where to go with this, and I started giving the story about my neighbor, and I didn't know where to go with it, and I was just kind of giving it, and then it wasn't until like it started to find its way into a certain direction that I feel like I could let my guard down and be like, okay, and then my heart came in more too. Um, this is such an interesting episode, and this is such an interesting week. It's only been 1 week, and my thoughts and the way I've processed these experiences are already like starting to have some shape. Like on Monday, I think Ashley wanted to catch up, and my friend called me, and I was like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I just don't want to say anything out loud. I'm, I'm kind of shell shocked, and I was sad. I think I even cried, and I was like, and I felt this like this peaceful grief, like kind of a little hard grieving, and like hearing like whatever God me saying like, do you trust me, and then getting like repeatedly. I was just like repeatedly all day long, and it felt unsacred to talk and unsacred to do activities. I was like, I need to sit in this. To now being like, I feel a little more full. Just been a week. This is the magic. This is the magic. That's my thoughts.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And I think with that, we'll conclude today's episode, and we'll catch y'all next week. Much love, y'all. Bye.
Peace.